We're a group of Gen Xers who became aware of our neurodiversity later in life. Join us as we share stories, interesting topics, and talk to special guests. Welcome to Season 2 of This Is How My Brain Works.
Hi, everyone. My name is Krista, and I'm here today with Jason and Michael, and we are three of the four of This Is How My Brain Works. Sarah is, as everyone likes to say, on assignment this week. Welcome back. We're excited to start off this new year, and today's topic, I'm bringing it in, and it's about emails. My bestie, who is late diagnosed ADHD, I'm not sure I've ever seen anybody struggle as much with the idea of emails as her. And I think you guys were sharing that you have anxiety around emails too. I think I have different anxiety than you guys. So I'm excited to hear how you all feel about your inboxes.
Yes. Yes. The inbox.
Do you have anxiety about your inbox, Michael?
I think I don't know if I have anxiety about it. I think I might sometimes get a little obsessive about, because I have the Google and I've got like 3 different things going into one thing, right? So it's like pulling from all the inboxes and I'm seeing everything, and that can get a little overwhelming with all the spam and stuff. And I used to get very detailed about organizing it. Like I have folders for so many things. I have less amount of folders now. Like I'll have like a Gus folder. It's like, so all the school stuff, all the Gus stuff, I'll put into a folder. And then I've got like 2 or 3 that I'll use. Sometimes like,
do you put it in, or does it route for you?
I suppose I could probably have that done for me with the AI.
I can't do that.
But like events or like itineraries, I also do that, because those are things where you're in line and you're like, where's that email? Where's that thing? And so I'll have to go to like my events folder, and then I'll be able to find it easier, even though you can just do a search for most things and it'll come up. Like you can just do the search, and most things it'll access the emails that you need. But
so how do you feel about unread emails?
It used to bother me. I used to think that it was like you got to have everything either deleted or read or addressed, at the end of now I've got like thousands and thousands, I don't even know what it is. It's because of just how many emails you get for things. And sometimes I will get a little overwhelmed. I'll get a little flooded, and I'll get on a kick where I unsubscribe to a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I'll periodically unsubscribe and do that type of thing. And then,
so what's your number?
Oh God, my number's so low, you guys. Mine's
is it
low.
really?
Well,
I can't have the number.
I'm in 700s. I'm only in about 400 that are.
You have the number 700 showing up on
No. Let's see what I got.
Do you know what I'm saying? When you've got the square and then the little red thing says how many messages you have in there?
Mine just says 99 plus right now, but let me see if I can.
I can't have that.
769.
I can't have that. My brain does not allow for that. So
I'll tell you where it gets troubling for me is I'll start with just LinkedIn. Once I start getting so many of them, like, requests and things, it's just LinkedIn after LinkedIn after LinkedIn. And I know that if I went to my LinkedIn account, I'd see like, I don't even know how many invitations from people, that want to connect. But the LinkedIn to me is probably 20% of the issue, because at some point I'm like, oh, this person wants to connect. This person wants to connect. This person wants to connect. LinkedIn this, LinkedIn this, LinkedIn. And then after a point, I'm like, when I'm starting to clear everything out, things that I thought were important, like, oh, so-and-so wants to connect. Like Michelle Sarche was like, wants to connect. now I don't even know. Like I could spend a whole day just on LinkedIn and going through all that and like connecting with people that
Well,
I
that's
wants
interesting.
to connect with me.
You have the email box, and then you have the inbox
All the
in your
messengers.
respective apps like LinkedIn. Just
Yeah.
real quick, the unread for my basic Gmail, that is just the catch-all kind of like general thing that I'll use for all the stuff. 12,208 unread.
Oh,
I just threw up in my mouth. I
And a lot of it is
literally
like,
just, it came up from my stomach and I threw up. I didn't think that, I mean, it was waiting in my throat. Like, is he going to say like 2,000? When you said 16,000, it just, 16,000?
well, a
So
lot of it is like Tim Ferriss, Five Bullet Friday, REI Outlet, The Futurist, all these things that you're all of a sudden on, and they send you like these, you get 3 emails a day or whatever. And somehow I just exist with it, and I kind of scroll through, like, I can see which ones are today's emails, and I'll like, okay, which ones do I need to address? But then I also have my email box for my coaching business, and then, so those,
or
but
that is that a separate? Because I can't. That's one thing where I will have to say, like, I have a really hard time. Like I have clients who want to use Slack, a client who wants to use Monday,
yeah,
a client, and I
yeah,
finally was like, you all, I cannot keep just checking in to a
right,
ton of different things. Like,
right,
I just
right.
my brain cannot function. Like, so I have everything come to my one Gmail.
But that's the thing. Well,
Because I
but
can't.
I'll have on the phone, like I'll have the multiple, like the story driven, the
Yeah.
general Gmail. It'll all go to the one inbox. Jason, on my coaching one, the story driven one, 2,604 unopened.
My husband does this. My husband has the bajillion unopened. I can't. Like I can't. Like I don't
but what
listen.
I've
I go
done,
through and I just delete everything. So
what I'll do is I'll search, I'll look at one, I'll look at my phone and I'll say
Yeah.
nature's pain relief, something about morphine. Now, so then I'll search nature's pain relief. And if I have like 10 of them, I just delete all of them. But
Yeah.
I mean, I get stuff like
I've done that.
I got
I'll
nature's
do that.
pain relief, I've
That's one
got
of
the
my
New
New Year
York Sun.
projects.
I mean, I've got things that are like, what?
That's a New Year's project for me. I'll go in and I'll just sort of like delete like just pages of like all of the advertisements that I haven't just deleted through the day. But and I go through on my phone when I get, and I just go literally like, whoop, delete, 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 and get rid. Because there's times where I might want those things. Like I might want, right now, I don't want a Gap sale, but maybe in April, I'm going to want information about a Gap sale. So I don't
Yeah.
get as upset about all of that stuff headed my way, but I cannot, like right now on my app on my computer, I have on the app for my messaging, my like texting, there are two messages it says that have not been read. I don't know what those two messages are because I've read everything. And that two in that mocking red circle is just sitting there.
Yeah.
And I cannot figure it out. And it will drive me bonkers.
Well, here's some of this stuff is like um Attitude Magazine. And it's just like, oh, take our parenthood and HDA survey. Well, I should probably do that. I'm not gonna, but so I have thousands of
Right. In
those
the back of
types of
your
things.
mind, you're like, I'm going to get to that because I want to do
Yeah.
that one day. But it
Yeah. And
just
I don't
sits
want to
there,
delete
sits
it.
there, sits there.
Part of it too is like there are the emails where it's like that's going to have some sort of answer to something that I need, or like that information is going
Yeah.
to help me in some way.
That is the equivalent, hold on if I can find it, of the like pictures on, I can't find a good section. Like the pictures on my that I take pictures of things because I haven't been able to figure out how, I don't know, like I can't sort it out in my email box. So if there's something I like, I'll take a screenshot and the whole idea is like, oh, I'll go find that someday.
Right.
And I will
Right.
never go find that. I will
I've
never go
I've done
find
that.
that.
I've like, yeah, it's like, oh, I got to go back to that thing. I better take a note of where that thing is so I go back to the
Yeah.
thing. because once I read that, things will be opening up how I do things or something like
Everything will change.
Well, what I don't
everything.
get, I'll take the time and I mean, look, I've only got 700 and some, you've got 16,000. But when I get close to 1,000, I go through, I search the ones, I'm like, why, why am I getting something from Domino's? Why is that coming in my inbox? So during that time, not only will I erase, try and get rid of all the Domino's for whatever reason, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to unsubscribe. So I unsubscribe from all these things, but other things start popping up.
I think unsubscribing is a myth.
I do too.
Well,
I
it
don't
could be.
understand. I'm like,
Listen,
oh, unsubscribe. Now I won't have any of these in my
so
inbox. And then I've gotten something every day, probably 4 emails a day for the last 2 weeks about if you've got knee issues, try this,
Oh.
try this nice knee wrap. And then it's all about orthopedic, help. And I keep seeing them.
And no offense, because no offense to well, actually, yes, I have great offense to the our electoral process, because I gave, I don't know, $25 in 2016, and I am on every political list I think that exists in the universe. And they all have
I'm
similar
not, oh,
names, and they're all just like, and everyone goes like, well, why don't you give more? And it's like, because you all literally like plaster my name all over the internet for everything you think you want. And so then I think to myself, okay, well, maybe I should have like this is my junk email, like KristaJunksit@gmail.com or whatever. But I can't, my brain doesn't seem to be able to manage that, like having a separate email address.
mhm.
And I hear all these people who are like on TikTok and they do all the social media, and they you have to have a unique, I believe, unique either phone number or email address in order to sign up for these multiple accounts. And these people are doing it all the time, and I'm not sure how they're managing all this data. Like I think my brain, as
Yeah,
ADHD as it can be at times, man, this data world really gives me a run for my money. And
yeah.
I
It's
don't know if
exhausting.
neurotypicals have the same amount of exhaustion with
I
it.
don't think so. I think you're right, Krista. It is something that uh if I'm in front of a computer for a long part of the day, I'm absolutely depleted and it's there's just no more gas in the tank. And that's when I'll where I'll more likely get irritable, just um I won't have tolerance for things because it's just completely got zapped by the tech, you know?
Yeah, and then I think December is let's change it up month of the year, because I feel like all of these apps are being released with updates. And so now on top of it, I'm having to look in different places for the things that I was able to do before because the button has moved or it's changed, or like King Supers used to have on their app like these really great buttons when you're looking for your fuel points or whatever that were navy blue with white, so they're really easy to see. Now they've switched them to white on white with line drawings and navy blue, and they're not as easy.
Mhm.
And it's like just change is not always like change for change's sake, which is I think a
Right.
lot of what we do.
The new design firm
It's
has
not
determined,
great.
yeah. I mean, if something is recognizable, yeah, you're right. It's like on I used to do on the, my phone, the homepage here, I used to, instead of words like telling me what that folder is, it's just I'll have icons, I'll have little emojis, and it'd be like, oh, that's a gift box. Okay, that's where I do shopping, or like,
Oh, that's a great tip.
so it's like this thing where an image is going to give you more information quicker, stickier. It's going to take less of your, cognitive fuel.
But how do you even get to that point to get on your phone and start making those changes to make it easier? Like
Yeah.
it's to me, it's so far gone. Like I'm
It
not a
has,
guy who needs to be looking at my email every day. It's not how I do business, right? I'm on a golf course.
Yeah.
I'm not, when I was at the restaurant, everything was email. Emailing all my purveyors, emailing, you know, people, I mean, just emailing all the time. So I had to check those emails a lot. But now I don't check my emails. And there gets a point where if you missed it a couple of days, you feel like you've just lost it. You've lost, you know, like going back, making sure, I mean, there's so much crap that's coming through. If I could just, I mean, I can name,
I can't let it
one page,
go
all 10 of them.
like that.
I have no idea
Yeah.
who, what.
I can't let it go. I'm in the,
Fastmates.com.
I was brought up in the Hollywood system of if you get back to people within 24 to 48 hours, period. Like that's, by the way, that Hollywood system doesn't even exist anymore because they're not getting back in 20. But I was brought up that even if you get back to somebody and like, hey, this is going to take a little bit longer. I'll circle back on, you know, Monday or whatever. Like I feel beholden to get back to people fairly quickly.
Well, that's where you're doing a
And
lot of your communication.
correct. Yeah, I'm not in the same situation as you
Right,
for sure.
right.
So, but
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, but so at one point, more people corresponded that way, and now it's a total. Now it's way more marketing, and you know, like covers more of your life stuff rather than just correspondence with a person.
Right.
And it's so diluted with all this other thing, all these other things. So then, like even with Facebook, I don't really use Facebook that much anymore. I
No,
like
me either.
it'll just be like a text thread. If it's like the people that I want to do something is now it's a text thread. But then what's funny about that is my nieces and nephews. I mean, my sister goes, yeah, don't if you want them to respond, don't send them a text. So it's like we've gone like
How do they respond?
don't even text them. I don't even know what it
WhatsApp?
is. Like WhatsApp or something like that.
Well,
It's
WhatsApp is encrypted. That's probably why those kids are smart. But
so there you go. Maybe yeah, exactly.
but it is. It's really hard. Like I have a client who we all have email addresses and we all have like other ways and other ways to communicate and then there's all these WhatsApp threads and it's can be really hard because you're like I sent something to you blah 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 and it's like well where is it? I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I sent it to you in some form or fashion.
And I think
So
that's
it
why
is.
the
It's a
younger
lot.
generation is like they're like we don't do email, we don't do text. You know, the social stuff is even I don't even know how they do it. But yeah, if it's WhatsApp, they've all kind of decided like here's how if you want to get in touch with me, here's how to do it. I don't think they are as locked in to or did you say beholden to something? I mean, I think there's something that happens when you get used to uh with your productivity or workflow when you used to work in one way, it's hard to let go of it altogether. Like I before the call, I was talking about how I'm helping my dad manage some of his like industrial real estate stuff and the way they used to do things it was very much I mean I showed you guys like the carbon copy message while you were out carbon copy things and everything was very like directory of businesses and that's how they would do their lead stuff and they don't want to get rid of that stuff even though it's like well this is from the 90s you're not going to get you can't do business development from this thing anyway but they at one time it had such value to them. That's how they made their livings from that business directory. And it's no longer relevant, but it's still they have this emotional attachment to it. So I'm wondering like, what is it of like,
Well, don't you think
you
part of it is kinesthetic? I mean, I think that's what we
know,
get down. That I mean, I remember I did those pads of like while you were out when I was an assistant back in the day, and there's something really kinesthetic. I think one of the parts of the virtual world that can be hard for me, in terms of the hyperfixations versus rabbit holes versus all that stuff, is that it's all ephemeral, right? Like it's all like
mm-hmm.
I can't picture where I put that thing because I didn't physically put it anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
I took a screenshot. I moved it into a folder someplace. It's like there nothing is like we are this generation that really went from like that style, the Rolodex, the library car, the library, Dewey Decimal System, like all of these. Yeah. Like we did that. And then we pulled up the big girl pants and we learned how to email. And then we pulled up the
But
big
it's
girl
our
pants and we learned
generation.
how to like,
We got
yeah,
caught in
we
between.
got
We got
all of
caught
it.
in between.
And
We got
Well,
caught in
Krista, and I
between.
think, but what's interesting is that I wonder when it's going to come, and I'm sure, well, okay, I think it started in New York or Brooklyn, these kids, I think it's called like the Luddite Club, where they are intentionally very low tech and
Mm.
they create community and events and communication kind of more old, like how we used to, the Gen Xers used to. Um, and so I think
How did
there's
we? How
They're
did we
like, we
communicate?
can come out of retirement to teach you how to do the old ways.
right. These are the old ways. We're the Yodas of the old ways. How would you find someone? We drove to 5 different parks.
We drove to a gas station and asked the guy, "Hey, where's
Yeah.
pull into that gas
Very,
station? Go in there and ask the guy how we get to."
yeah, I mean, it was almost like a game every weekend where you're like, let's try to find where the party is or where people are, or you'd have to you'd have to get bits of information from different things.
But think about it. It was never stressful. It was never hard.
It
You
was kind of
managed.
fun.
It
It
was,
was
I mean, we made it. It's not like
Sure.
I wish we all had cell phones where we could message each other and so we knew where everyone was. That concept wasn't even
No,
in
the
our
number
head.
of pay phones I've stopped at to like,
oh my,
Oh, or just stop anywhere like, hey, can I borrow the phone? I just got to
yeah,
check in real quick. Do you mind? Do you have a phone I can borrow? Sure. And the guy would
yeah.
take the whole phone and like put it on the other side of the desk and like, here you go. He'd turn it around for you. Here you go. You got to dial zero first. Okay. And
Oh
you would
yeah.
just make calls. Like, I
I
there
didn't seem difficult at all.
phone books.
I think the
Oh,
thing,
phone.
I think also there's a sense of, and maybe I'm wrong because maybe I just wasn't this type of person in the old days, but I do feel like I have to sit down once or twice a year and like really manage my sort of my data. So like I gotta like get rid of all of the stuff that's just sitting there in the promotions thing in the Gmail box, or I have to like I'm about to have to reorganize my desktop, reorganize my phone so that everything's in the folders and like you were saying, and like and those things have to happen a couple times a year probably, and they have to happen in my brain as a hyper focus. Like
Mhm.
I really have to be like, I'm sorry, I somehow got down the rabbit hole and I got 3 hours and we can't stop because if we stop it'll never be done again.
But I think it's
Like
also determining what is it that you actually need versus what is kind of like why is it a why is it a need? Or like some of these emails that I'm saying, it's like, yeah, I'm going to go back to that and read it. Like there's some information in there that is going to help me, and I don't want to get rid of that. I mean, uh, uh, you know, like, is there an exercise where you're like, okay, what matters? What do I actually need?
Yeah, it's
It,
called spring cleaning. You do that in your
that's I was
closet.
about to say,
It's
I
spring
think
cleaning. That's what I do. Like
yeah,
once in a great while, if I do have the mental fortitude to go in, I look at something
see,
and I'm like, you know what?
but I'm at the
Yes, I
point
like
now.
that
but you
shirt,
can't but you gotta get
but I
rid of
haven't
it.
touched that shirt in a year or 2 years.
But
I don't wear it.
you got to take it through the whole life cycle because if
But
you
I,
put it in a pile,
yeah,
whether that pile be a digital pile or a real pile, and you think, oh, I'll think about it and I'll come back later, it doesn't get moved out. It just sort of sits in the pile. So, whatever, like, I think that's what I have to do. It's like, I live in a world, like, we lived in a world where if you lost that piece of paper or that instruction manual or whatever, you couldn't find it again. If I lost the instruction manual to the TV, it was like we didn't get to go on the internet and go, "Bah, bah, bah, instruction manual." Like it was just gone. So we were savers in some of these aspects. And I
yeah,
think we have to learn how to let it all go,
yeah.
knowing, well, not everything, because if we have some sort of thing happen with the tech, with tech, satellites, whatever, we need to be we're the ones who are going to be the leaders of the way forward. But but in general, with some of this other stuff, I think we've got to be willing to like, I can find the recipe again.
Yeah.
Like I for years held on to this recipe from from my Martha Stewart food. It was the only, like I had the whole magazine, but it was the only recipe I cared about in the whole magazine. But I held on to that magazine because I wasn't going to lose that recipe. I mean, you opened it up, it opened right up to the recipe. It had like, dirt on, like food on it, the whole thing.
Hour.
Well, that recipe is all you have to do is put, chicken provolone pasta in your search engine, and it's the first thing that pops up. So I don't have that recipe anymore. I finally got rid of the
Well,
really gross the stinky magazine. But I just think that there is, like, we have perhaps a slightly different hurdle than others because we remember a time where that hard copy was our only way forward.
yeah. Yeah. And additionally, like, we've all heard of the research about when you actually write things down, like to your point, Krista, about the tactile nature of something, there's a reinforcement or there's a fulfillment or there's some sort of like, I don't know, there's a connection that happens
Yeah.
when it
It's
is more
concrete.
tactile.
It's concrete.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a concrete
concrete.
aspect to it.
And
Plus,
like that,
mentally, for me, if I write something down, I know exactly the color paper I wrote it down on,
Yeah.
where on the paper I wrote it down on,
yeah.
where I put the paper. I mean, that happened to me a lot at the restaurant. I would
And if
write,
you
I'd have to
if
write
you wrote
orders
if you
down.
wrote that thing down on a different thing, it wouldn't be sticky the same way. Like
It
or
wouldn't, but
memorable.
my brain works anytime I write something down.
I remember it.
I remember it. Not only do I remember it, but I know where it is.
So I'm
Right.
wondering, like, as we're finding a place to land, like, so Krista used the word ephemeral, and
Yeah.
I think like that is it's just not as I don't know, it's not as sticky.
It's not sticky.
And so like when are things gonna start like this Luddite club, like these kids in New York, like when are things gonna start kind of coming back to that? Because it's almost like
When there's an EMP.
you're too untethered. It's like
Yeah.
it's too floaty, it's too, like the groundedness happens in the tactile things, in the notes. And
Well, but I think I think brains are developing to be more comfortable with the ephemeral nature of the cloud, so to speak.
Okay.
But like my kids still learned cursive. Like they learned handwriting, they learned cursive. I know that there are programs in the United States that have gotten rid of those things.
yeah.
And there's a lot of research that says that's not good. Like kids really, like there is an absolute brain body connection with handwriting and cursive. And so, I mean, I don't know. Maybe we were the luckiest of them all, you guys, truthfully.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It's just the way that the times in which we grew up, we remember what it was like without technology, without emails, without communicating, on 6 or 7 different platforms. We had none of it. And everything was just fine. Everything was fine. And we then moved, because I know I was in college, all right? I'm already 18, 19 years old, where, we're just now working on computers at the library. Mac,
Right.
go to work on the computer in the
Right.
library. Our generation floated between the two, I feel like. We knew exactly what it was without, and then we got bombarded between 16 and 30. I mean, depending on your age, whatever you were.
Actually, don't even think we
all
were
that stuff came.
I don't even think we were bombarded at that point. It was like for us, it was a slow burn. It was like, you remember when the internet was just sort of like a glorified yellow pages. Like there was nothing available on websites besides like one picture and an address. Like we remember sort of the slow burn of that. And now it's like frickin' Minority Report where you feel like it's like augmented reality of like, I happen to say to you while on this podcast, wow, I really need some compression socks. Which I don't I don't need them right now, but I guarantee I'm because I said it in front of my phone, I'm now gonna have 10 ads for compression socks. So we've moved into this like minority report aspect of
Yeah.
it, and people are trying harder and harder and harder to pinpoint us to how we buy, when we buy, where we buy, and what they
And
can
we're
sell
giving
to
them
us.
so much
And we're
information.
giving them
Good point.
so much information. So I
And it
do.
doesn't, there's no, don't contact me after 10 PM or before 8 AM.
No,
There's
not
none of that.
anymore.
It's 24/7. So there's
Yeah.
no downtime. So you're getting bombarded all the time.
So
I said
we're
bombarded
tired.
twice now,
I
Michael.
love it.
When
I
should
do
we
love, it's
release
a
this
great word.
podcast to the masses?
Right
do we
after
do that?
Christmas, after
Yeah.
we've been bombarded for months and months between the
There you go,
holidays and the
bombarded.
election.
Bombarded.
Anyway, so in short, the email is my nemesis, was sort of what we started with. Email is tough to manage and is sort of how we started with. I don't think we solved it. So before we go, maybe give people your top tip for how you either manage, how you manage your sort of digital footprint out in the world in a way that helps your brain.
For me, it's just compartmentalizing. It's like mentally, like this, like maybe like this is social media, this is email correspondent. It can't all be like
Together.
digital content pushing or pulling. It's gotta kind of live in some compartments. And then like the same way as I said with the emails, like itineraries or events and stuff, I will put those in a separate folder so I can find them faster, even though you can do a search, but there's something about just like less overwhelm and just like, I know there's only going to be this much in this email box. Another thing that I was thinking was, what's interesting is I think instead of going through my 20,000 emails and doing spring cleaning, I'm just going to create a new email address and start fresh.
Oh,
And
so I had that idea with
that one
Laura.
good.
I was like, wouldn't it be fun if we could have sort of like a Gen X email service that it's literally just emails between person to person, like no companies, no nothing. It's the email you go to when it's just you've sent an email to Jason, you've sent and you're having a correspondence. But the truth is that we all manage our own emails. So eventually that would get dirtied up with, oh, I'm going to give that address over to so and so, compression socks are us because, whatever. Now all of a sudden you're on the ride again. So I
Right.
think that we do have to manage it ourselves. Jason, do you have any tips?
Hmm.
Jason's like, ignore, ignore, ignore.
Well, no, I mean, I do ignore. And then I'm like, oh, I've got to check my emails. I'll do it in the morning. And of course, something comes up, then it's, I don't. Then it's the afternoon. I don't want to look at my phone. It just kind of goes, it just sort of compounds itself. And I'm lucky
I
now. I'm lucky that I have a work email. So there is just a work email that comes from,
work.
there's no ads. It's just information about work and everything that surrounds it. The the I think the best tip is to find time. It's not a tip I abide by so much, but to find 5-10 minutes a day and try and just keep it clean. Because I think for me, Michael, if I had, with all due respect, because I know a lot of people have thousands and thousands and thousands of email. My mom is the same way. She's got tons because she signs up for all kinds of things and get these emails. You got to just try and fish out the ones that are important because I have so many that aren't important. And I try and delete them as quickly as I can. I also try and, unsubscribe. I'm lucky right now that a lot of my correspondence is not through email. It's just a lot of junk. And occasionally I get some important things. That's the only other thing is if you're not on top of it, one email can get buried amongst 50 other emails that are from, one's from Domino's, one's about, you need new knee pads. Try this for your, do you have earaches? Here's something for earaches.
Right. I think my tip, and who knows, this is what works for me. Because like I said, I can't have that red frickin' circle. I just can't have it. I can't have the red circle. So what I do is on my phone a few times a day, I will go in, and because everything on your phone is in like one tab, you don't have the promotions tab, to this tab, to the, whatever, like they do on Google. And you also don't have the advertisements that jump around, so you accidentally click on it while you're trying to erase something. So I just go in and I quickly scan down the 10, 15 emails, and then I go, oh, none of that is important. And I go immediately delete and then run my finger down all those circles and move them to trash. And I do that a few times a day. And I know that sounds maybe like people are like, I don't want to be in there a few times a day, but I just get rid of everything. I mean, like, I get rid of it because I cannot have this red circle. Or I don't even know if it's red. I cannot have the circle telling me how many emails I have. I just cannot have it. I cannot. I cannot. My brain will explode. So,
Yeah,
on that note, all right.
that was fascinating. Three
Email
different things.
management. Thanks everyone for joining us on this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, and we will listen. We will listen. No, we won't. We don't listen. We just talk to you. We hope to see you again, talk at you again next week. Thanks.
Check your email.
Check your email.
If you like this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, please like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like more info on the hosts, guests, and topics, check out the show notes. Thanks for listening.